Hi. Hi, my name is Challa Prabhu. I'm a former Microsoft MVP. Today I just want to give a demonstration of named definition in Microsoft Excel, which will be like an analogy to a variable in Power BI. So name definition has been there for quite a long time in Microsoft Excel. And and this particular thing is very useful because we need not have to remember the exact location of a cell in a Microsoft Excel worksheet. So before I start this, I would like to thank Srini Koppolo, who has developed this technology of OLE, COM, Windows, Office 95 and Office 97. Although I have been in touch with him quite a long time back, I really appreciate this technology because those people, when they are working on Microsoft Office, they use it as just as a standalone application and never actually understand why this Microsoft Office suite contains all these four applications together. What is the benefit of this application? For example, if I use a Microsoft Office as an individual application, then there will be more of a spell checker program. You'll have a custom dictionary separately. You'll also have thesaurus. You have many other things which are independent for each and every application. Therefore, you have to redo a lot of efforts across all these individual applications. So if you have it as a Microsoft Office suite, the application size will become smaller, and any services that you need, you can actually call that particular API, get the services done, and you can keep the document in a more professional way. So OLE is one of the called as object linking and embedding. People normally use a space special, but when as a technical writer, or when you are trying to explain this to a person who has got more expertise in software development and things like that in various languages, we are supposed to communicate in the language of one's business. For example, for someone who says space special, I would call it as OLE, or if I could also call it as an access control. For Java programmers, it could be called as a Java applet. But the underlying technology is going to be the component object model. And then if you just go down into OLE, we could still consider it as a client server architecture again. So for people who have been using this for quite a long time, I would like to say Windows Office 75 all had active desktop as one of the criteria, which means that you can have a channel definition file on your Windows desktop and would request the server to push the content to your desktop. For example, if I have a newspaper in the morning, I just go to the headlines. I can just specifically say which portion of the content I would like to see on my desktop, and I can tell the server to keep pushing it as scheduled every day in the morning at 7 o'clock. So this will give you a server push technology, and you will do only one client pull from your side. So it's a client pull and server push technology, one thing. Second thing, during this period of 1975, if many of you think that, okay, it's a very old version and it's a long time Windows 95 because we are in 2025, I would like to make one thing here, like even before Internet Explorer came into, people could see the web content, or they could see the HTML file both in Internet Explorer as well as they could see the same content in the file explorer itself, which means that it means the browser is tightly integrated in the operating system. Okay, so today what I would like to say is I want to talk about named definition. Named definition is like, for example, if you're talking about Power BI is going to talk about the tables, columns, expressions, functions, syntax, and many other things. That's part of the data analysis expression. But here, when I'm talking about a named definition, I'm going to talk about Excel cell. Okay, which means like I can have a high level of computing power within a particular cell. Okay, so let me see so this particular sheet which I'm actually having, it's a factual demo. It actually has the expenses right from the beginning of this month till maybe at the 18th of this month. So I'm going to have a calculation of all the daily expenses that has took place during that period. So this 8,916 is the total expenses from all this. So how do I know that? So I'll just click on. You can know that it's a total of all these applications that actually has come to 8,169. Okay, so this is one way. But if I say that 8,169, quite often it becomes very difficult for me to remember this the column C and the row 15. So if you would probably use this name definition for this particular cell, then what happens is it is not only local to this particular worksheet called sheet 1, that particular name could be used across anywhere in the worksheet, irrespective of the number of worksheets that you add in the Microsoft Excel, which means you have a dynamic allocation of memory and worksheet into a particular workbook. Now let me say this particular cell has already been defined a name. So how do you define a name? For example, I can come to 85, then go to define name and say give a name for that. Like for example, this can be like try. Okay. And say okay. So now this particular cell has got a name called try. How do you know that the name has been defined? Because if you go to the extreme left corner, you'll see these are the names that have been assigned to a certain cell where I will be using this for calculation purposes. Okay, for now let me go to the next one. Now I'm going to the P4. For P4 I got 5,000, which shows it is an expense on the left hand side here. And if I come to the sheet and click, it says it is a sales. So what happens is, in case if I want to calculate any value here, then I can go and say what is the equal to sum. Okay, then I put a bracket here. Then I will use the sales function because sales, comma. Then I will use the other one is called as the expense. You can see this is the expense here, right? Then I will have to close it. Okay. So the value is 13,169. This 13,169 it's a sum of the two named definition called as sales and expenses. Okay, so what will happen if I come here and say, show me from where does it come from? It says one value comes from this, which is it is called as the sales, and the other one is actually is coming from a different worksheet. Okay, so if I double click on it, it says that it is coming from a factual for demo, and it's coming from something called demo 1x from P4. The P4 is the worksheet here, and this is a particular cell location here. So you are very clear that using a name definition you can create a calculation. This is very clear. Now because why I did this, I can come to anywhere. I can come to any wherever I want. For example, before I go here, I'll just come and say I go sheets 14. I'll rename this sheet 14. Okay. I can give the same function again here also. Save. Okay. Now I come here. I got 3001 again. Now if you look at this particular thing, it will give me two Excel sheets here when I go to the precedence. Okay, three. You got it? You got it. So if I just come here and double click it, it will give me two worksheets. One is, yes, it's a factual for demo. Factual demo is the name of the workbook, and then it gives you the one is the sheet 1, which is 1, and the other one is P4. So the total of these two files are going to be here. Okay, that's exactly what I want to tell you by name definition. You can use the name definition across all the worksheet. Clear? Now second thing is, I'll come and remove this. Now what happens now because this 8,569 is a total 8,169 is the total of all this. Okay. Now I've given a name called sales. What will happen? Say, well, let me go and show you again, because this shows me that sheet 1 sales. What will happen? Remember sheets in. Okay. Now what will happen if I go and change this to Power BI? Power BI. Okay. Now let me come and see what the name definition shows me now. Name definition shows me it's a Power BI. The cell name has been changed. So if you see, Excel does everything for you. You just have to be very clear what name definition you are actually using, and how you are using, and how much of computation that you are using that particular name definition in your worksheet. Okay. Now this is what is name definition. From this idea, you can just think about how to use a DAX in your Power BI, how to use measures, how to use the calculated columns, and how to use the calculated tables. So this is one thing which I wanted to take this as a demo. Second thing is, when you work on this particular Microsoft Office, for example, because most of them must be watching this, please don't use application as a standalone application. They're all productivity suite, which means if I'm using a Microsoft Word, I can bring in Microsoft Excel data inside. I can run PowerPoint inside Microsoft Excel, inside Microsoft Word, and I can work everything in collaborative way. Now, what will happen? What will happen in case if I have this chart in a Microsoft Word document? Microsoft Word document, because my superior says that okay, this chart is good, but I want this chart to be changed because based on the current value it has to be very dynamic. So I have to go back to the Microsoft Excel here. Then I can click here, go to the chart design, change the type to something like column. This fine. Okay. Now here it is changed. Now I should know whether this chart has changed in the Microsoft Word document. Yes, it has changed. So which means that I'm actually creating the Excel as my source location, the server, and what I'm seeing Microsoft Word document is a client. So it's a client-server architecture at this particular in the Microsoft Word Office. It could be a client-server architecture in your office in a very different perspective. But for me as an OLE, object linking embedding, I'm talking about this as a client and Excel as a server. But then we're going one step ahead of this. Instead of just saying Microsoft Word, Excel, and all that, I should also say how this actually works. The underlying technology for this tool, underlying technology of how this tool gets communicated when the stores in different form type. One stores as one stores as a .xls, other stores as .doc. So the communication between two different formats is very different. Okay, so that you have to take care of that also. Earlier, when 10-15 years back, these two formats were binary. Now they are different. They are maybe in an XML or anything. But if as a technical writer or any other developer, now when I look at this and talk to them, I'll talk in such a way that I'll say that this is stub, proxy, and the communication between this Excel sheet and Microsoft Word is called a marshalling. So now you see there are many terminologies that I've used here in this particular demonstration. So this is a way it will help you to understand the technology as well as will also understand how you share your knowledge with the experts in the field of object-oriented programming and things like that. Okay, now also I would like to say that okay, in case, so this is if someone says, oh, so what great about this? So I'll talk about this is a class. This is a class. If I say new, it will create an object. So this first instance of this particular Microsoft Excel, which is Word, which has been opened, is called a class. And subsequent new, whenever you say new, you get an instance of that particular Microsoft Word document, which becomes an object. And then when I go here and go to view, I'll get arrange all. I'll get a collection of this particular Microsoft Word or Excel document. So you got an instance, you got a class, you got an object, and you got collections. Now, if I'm coming to name definition here, correct? Now, then next, I also would like to talk about the references here: absolute reference, relative reference, and mixed reference. Very quickly. So when I come to a Microsoft Excel document, when I brought this particular value, when I brought this particular value 5000 to the Power BI sheet, to a Microsoft Word document 5000, it actually copied the absolute reference of that particular location, which means it has actually taken the absolute location of P column and column 11. Okay, so what do I mean by absolute reference? Okay, so now I go and change this to 4000. What I value it is, the new one. Okay, 34,000. Now will the Microsoft Word document change in any way? Yes, it changed, right? So which means that Microsoft Word document knows the exact location of the value in the Microsoft Excel worksheet, so that any changes that occurs there will quickly schedule the update to Microsoft Word document. Now let me still make it more clear if you're not, if you're still a bit confused. What will happen if I just move this cell a little down? The Microsoft Word knows the exact location by being that it is going to be like P11, but now my data is in P30. If I go to Microsoft Word document, it will be empty. Correct? So that is called as an absolute reference. And the relative reference is the different. Normally what you do is you calculate and drag and drop, and all the values get updated automatically, the relation definition. So now I'll go back again. I'll just push this back again, okay? Now go back to Microsoft Word document. Now 3000 has come here. So this is what is called as references, because this is very important. Because 25 years back, almost more than 2 decades, where most of the software developers are facing, they're finding it very difficult to understand pointers, arrays, and many of the functions of a table, arrays. They could have very well used Microsoft Excel as an array, and they could have got a lot of knowledge from using this particular application itself. So Microsoft Office is not just an application, it's a combined suite. It gives you domain knowledge through product knowledge. That's a very core part of it. Everything that you go. For example, if I come here and to Excel, if I come here Excel and say formulas, I've got date time formulas. Probably you will talk about the time incidence function in Power BI. If you've got a lookup table, yeah, there's a certain functionality. And also I have match, pregnant and mode functionality, a logical and everything. So there's n number of formulas that you can use. But today when you're going to use AI, Copilot, and you're going to ask certain things in chat, and the application becomes, and you get the response very quickly. The one thing is, it's fine. Okay, but you should also be understanding what Microsoft gave you for the last 50 years. How did they really build you the knowledge, skill, and talent? And then when you go to AI, you have to know what actually happened. If you have been using this, you should also know what is VLOOKUP, what is the functionality, what is the rich functionality of a date and time, what is a lookup table, what is math and trigonometry. They are such essential for you to work on your on this particular sheet. Fine. So, what is the advantage of advantage is, even if you go one step quickly to building your efficiency through Copilot and things like that, there is always, I would advise to just go and start working on this functionality yourself and see how they actually work. Okay, because their productivity is really highly built. So it's up to you to find out which is better, whether Google Sheet is good or whether Microsoft Excel is good. For me, it is basically like how much of domain knowledge do I really acquire from the product knowledge. So here today, I would like to tell you that the name definition is very important. From this small presentation that I have actually given you, I think you'll really appreciate it and know that it is up to you how you actually define the name for each and every variable that you need not have to worry about. If you say that I want to do sales minus expenses is equal to my profit, then go and use that variable directly and then start using it. Okay, so that will be very clear for you. Okay, so that's bring to the end of my presentation on name definition, and I hope you enjoyed this, and feel free, and I just want to bring this analogy because even when you come across a named definition, please free that there are a lot of things that you might have probably should have learned well before AI that will give you more knowledge, talent and skill. Thank you very much, and my name is Challa Prabhu.